again to Whistler Olympic Park in beautiful British Columbia. This is day 4 of competition at the 2023 FIS Nordic Junior and U23 World Ski Championships. Hey everyone, I'm Steve, your host, and I've got Tim Wintagno here, longtime coach here in Canada. Today it's the U23 mass start races for men and women, 20K classic technique. So Tim, what are your thoughts going into today for the U23 mass start race?
Well, first of all, Steve, yesterday we saw a few breaks in the climbs out on course. So look again to those climbs. Who's going to break, if they're going to break early. And as you can see, there's some snow coming down, weather is changing, and we'll see if that's a factor in today's race.
Yeah, that's definitely going to be interesting today with the conditions changing and for the U23 men and women. But let's take a look back at yesterday's races for the junior men and junior women mass start classic races. Okay, so here's the junior women's start. A bluebird day yesterday here at Whistler Olympic Park. All the junior women getting underway for 20K of racing.
Yeah, Stephen, we saw right off the start there, a little congestion right off the bat. No broken poles. Everyone skied away safely from that.
And we can see Mila Andreasen from Norway taking charge early on. And then her and Lisa Eriksson of Sweden starting to push the pace, and they broke away.
Yeah, and they just skied away from the pack. It seemed like it was going to be a battle the whole way around all 20 kilometers, and then Andreasen broke with 2.5 kilometers to go.
And that's Andreasen pushing up the big climb, and then coming in for a World Championship win in her first ever World Junior Championships. You can see the emotion there. Eriksson coming in with a silver medal for Sweden, and then the sprint for third, Tim.
Yeah, so again, Tosa Vainen, our sprint champion from day 1 of competition, was able to out-double pole the other girls and win a bronze medal.
What a great podium. Just switching the orders from the sprint, and there is Mila Grosberg-Haugen Andreasen, MGA, taking the gold medal in her first ever World Junior Ski Championships. Now, the men, the junior men, what a battle that was here at Whistler Olympic Park. And there's so we're just seeing a few more. You know what, Tim? The women's race was so good. We wanted to see the start again. I mean, that was a great race, but we want, here we go. Here's the men, and we can see they're underway here. So at the front there, the blue of Nico Antola, and he decided to push the pace right from the start.
Yeah, and his tactic was to control that race start to finish. You know, he knew he was up against some strong sprinters and wanted to just constantly push the pace on the climbs. Here we can see 4 Norwegians skiing away with Antola, away from the rest of the pack.
And Antola had to be worried at this point. 4 Norwegians in the mix. He decided to push the pace, and the only Norwegian to stay with him, Matthias Holbach.
Yeah, and here I thought for sure Antola was going to just ski away with it, but Holbach could hang on. And in his interview, he said he had good skis. He was able to rest and recover on the descents, which paid off for this finish.
Yeah, he sprints to the finish, moves ahead of Antola, and Holbach, in his first ever World Junior Championship, celebrates a Junior World Championship for Norway. Nico Antola did everything he could to shake him, but not enough. Holbach, the gold medal, and then the big sprint for third.
Exactly. Holbach came back and sprinted for the bronze medal. Colorud, Steve.
And there is Holbach from Norway. Very, very happy after missing out on the medals in the sprint. He made sure in the mass start with the gold, Antola with the silver, and Colorud with the bronze. And now that we're turning our attention to the U23s and this 20K course, it's the same course as yesterday, same distances for men and women, but the conditions here are changing a bit today, Tim, with the snow.
Yeah, they've changed lightly. Here we can see the layout. Again, 2 kind of climbs of note where we saw some attacks happen in that junior men and women's race. So the first climb coming up under the bridge, they'll climb up. We saw Andreasen attack there, and then the second major climb of the day takes us to the top of the course before it's a rolling descent back to the finish. So look for some action there in today's race. They do 4 laps of this 5K course. yeah, a lot can happen. Will the pack stay together? Will there be breaks early on? And as mentioned, yes, conditions are slightly changing. You know, temperature's still below 0, so I think that track is going to stay solid. Ski choice won't be as big of a factor, but if there's some more precipitation coming down, waxing will be a bigger factor in today's race than we saw yesterday.
Yeah, so waxing definitely going to be key, Tim, just with the changing conditions as well. So they're going to, the wax techs are going to have to be ready for changing conditions over the course of the day, within a race and between the races.
Yeah, and so here they are getting ready, you know, testing wax, trying different combinations. And sometimes if there is this change in weather throughout the day, you almost have to make a prediction of what the weather is going to be like an hour or two from when they're actually applying that wax, and that's what makes things tricky. And
Tim, there's both the kick waxing and the glide waxing. You can see a lot of focus on the grip wax. Are they going to go with a hard wax, Klister?
Yeah, so you could see the tech there had a cork in his hand. He was corking in a hard wax, and so they'll be racing on a hard wax today.
Yeah, so we can see the athletes getting ready for today. So we're just going to check in with the third member of our team, Tom Stephen, with some thoughts on that as well.
Guys, I think the snow that fell this morning is really going to take a big effect in this race. You can see behind me right now, the waxers are testing out different waxes and combinations to try to get the best skis for the race today. There's some big climbing and big descending on this course, so fast skis and good grip is going to be super, super important. For the women's race today, I think my favorite is going to probably be Sophia Laukley from the US. She's shown some really strong results on World Cup and also early season racing this year, and she's a real grinder of a skier. So she's going to be able to really put some work in to the rest of the pack on the uphill. So it's going to be really, really exciting to see. But there's also going to be some strong leaders in that front pack. So yeah, back to you guys.
Yeah, so some interesting comments from Tom there, just about his pick, Sophia Laukley, but quite a few other athletes that we're watching for.
She's a really strong climber, so yeah, watch for her. You know, Bergana, bib #1, she's definitely one of my favorites out there today. And, you know, I wouldn't rule out the German Lisa Lohmann, 2021 gold in the classic race at U23. So watch out for bib #7.
Yeah, now some of my picks, I think Novi McCabe out of Meadow Valley in Washington State, just south of here, definitely looks strong in the classic sprint. I think she could be a factor in this race. And then some of the top Canadians.
You know, Jasmine Lyons there, bib #36. She was so strong at trials just a week ago in Prince George. So look for her. She could have a good one today.
Yeah, the University of New Hampshire skier looking very strong just a couple weeks ago in Prince George here in Canada for the trials, as Tim noted. There we see some of the Italians getting ready for their race. We talked to some of the Italian coaches, and you know, they had some good results yesterday in the junior race.
Yeah, and speaking of the Italians, the Centa is in the race today. Her father raced here in 2010 at the Olympics, and he was a Olympic champion 2006 in the 50K.
Right, Giorgio De Centa, so his daughter racing here today for Italy. There's some of the Swiss athletes, and you know, one of the Swiss athletes that we got to watch for is Nadja Kalin. You know, she's really good at the distance races and the mass start races. She was 21st in the skiathlon at the Beijing Olympics last year, also the winner of the Engadine skate mass start race last year as well. So she likes the mass start
And
races.
her sister came 5th yesterday in the junior women's race.
That's right, yeah. So their younger sister racing yesterday, so she gets some information from that and some inspiration. And so we're going to get started pretty shortly here. Again, this is 20 kilometers, 4 laps of a 5K course, exact same courses the junior men and women raced on yesterday.
There's the Canadian team we just saw. You know, they're getting ready. They're trying to stay warm just before the starters call them to the starting pen, the start line.
Yeah, and some of our Australians you could see on camera. Tuva Bygrave skis with the University of Alaska at Anchorage, one of the favorites for the Australian team. Okay. Welcome back. It's the 2023 FIS Nordic Junior World Ski Championships. And today it's the U23 Ski Championships with the women kicking things off in the 20-kilometer Mass Start Classic. Going to be a great battle out there. All the skiers starting together, fighting it out here at Whistler Olympic Park. Tim, some of the top skiers we're looking for.
Steve, talking about it, we were talking it's going to possibly be a good battle between Norway and the USA out there today. There's some top results coming from the World Cup, some Olympians out there racing. I also want to look at bib number 7, Lisa Lohman, winning gold at the U23 Championships in 2021 in the classic event, so watch for her. This is going to be, an exciting race. We'll see how long that pack can actually stick together and if there's going to be any breaks early on.
Yeah, and you can see the Olympic rings there in the side, Tim, and there's the conditions right now, but will they stay that way?
Yeah, you can even see in the shot there a little bit of blue sky peeking through, so things might stay stable, which will make things a lot easier for skis and wax technicians, but will some more precipitation come down later on in the race?
So we're just a few minutes away from the start, but as Tim noted, some of the athletes we're watching for, but I think the top skier from my perspective, and I think from your perspective, Tim, is Bergana from Norway. She recently had an 8th place on the World Cup in Val di Fiemme in the final stage of the Tour de Ski. Definitely one to watch for. Tom noted Sophia Laukli as a real grinder of a skier, typically more stronger on the skate side.
With Laukli, look for her in that 10-kilometer individual skate. I think she's going to be my favorite for the skate race. She's bib number 2 there, but yeah, if she has a good classic race today and she can hang in there, watch out for her.
Yeah, and we saw number 3, Nadia Kalin, and there is number 7, Lisa Lohman, a past World Junior champion in this kind of race. Also in there, the American Sydney Palmer-Ledger from Park City, Utah, skis for University of Utah as well. And there we see the Akasiku sisters, the twin sisters from Estonia, 12 and 13. They're in there, and then Martina Decentes, we talked about earlier, from her dad racing the Olympics here.
Lillian Gagnon, she raced on the Tour de Ski this year, had some World Cup starts. Yeah, some up-and-coming Canadians there. And we've got Anna Perron, another Canadian, and Jasmine Lyons, who dominated the trials a week ago. And can't forget about Amelia Wells, who's from BC, I believe Strathcona Nordics, out on the island, Vancouver Island, and is currently training in Canmore with the Alberta World Cup Academy.
There we see our women getting ready in the start gates. There we see 34, that's Annabelle Needham from Houghton, Michigan. She skis for Michigan Tech.
So again, Steve, just they're lining up and they got different bib numbers. So their positioning in the starting grid is based upon FIS points. So we see, some of these athletes, bib 1, bib 2, they have a bunch of World Cup starts, which is going to give them a better advantage in these mass start races with their points.
And there is Bergana, the number 1 seed from Norway. She is our top pick today, but Sophia Laukli, you see on the left, number 2 is the starter, getting them ready. 45 skiers, 15 nations here to take on 20K, 4 laps here at Whistler Olympic Park.
Yeah, let's see if they can get off to a clean start here.
30 seconds to start.
Yeah. It just didn't seem right when I was there.
Just under 30 seconds to start. Starter can start them at any time in that 30 seconds once they're set.
And we go out that way for a while, and then they come up this way towards us.
And we are underway here at Whistler Olympic Park, 20K for our U23 women to kick off the day here, day 4 of competition of these FIS Nordic Junior and U23 World Ski Championships for 2023. These were the Olympic trails in 2010 Vancouver Olympics, and a clean start.
Yeah, that was a really clean start. The hardest part about that start is that it's a slight downhill into this uphill, and that's where that accordion effect that we're seeing now happens, but no broken equipment. Everyone's moving along, which is great to see.
So we can see a couple of the Swiss skiers, Kalen and Weber, out front with Bergana, but this is very early stages, obviously, in this race.
Yeah, look to Weber out there. She's the Swiss national champion, both the skate and classic races. So, you know, she could have a really strong race as well. She's also a triathlete, so great cross training coming into play there.
Yeah, not only a triathlete, part of the Swiss national triathlon team, so definitely a versatile athlete. But you can see the red suit at the front, Bergana. Just looking at her body language, it looks like she wants to set a good pace here. Now, the way this course works, there's that early climb out of the stadium. They have a bit of a descent, bit of a plateau, and then the first big climb. There's essentially two big climbs on this course. The first big climb coming up just in a few minutes, and then the big climb that takes them to the top of the course later on that takes them up to the 2.5 kilometer point. Those are the two big features, but also the stadium. It's a long double pole section if it comes down to that at the finish.
But a couple of things, we see a few different names in this start list than we saw in the sprint race. And so some of these distance skiers, this is their first race at these championships, and they want to be aware that there are some sprinters in this field, and they want to try and break away, because those sprinters, if they can hang on a full 20 kilometers, they could have a strong finish and end up winning the race.
Now, we talked about who is in this race, but just one of the skiers not in this race, resting up for the later races at these competitions, is Kahera of Finland, who won the sprint, dominating performances in the sprint. She's resting for this race. So that's allowing a few other members of the Finnish team to race here today, but Bergana pushing the pace. Lisa Lohmann, number 7 for Germany, she's up there, and she's looking really strong. And she, I think, has some hunger here. She was in the sprints, and she had a crash in that final straightaway. I think it was in the semifinal.
Yeah, it looked like her ski grabbed something, and she went down. So, yeah, she's definitely going to be hungry for a podium today.
Yeah, definitely one of our top picks today. So this is this long plateau section here, and then they head up that climb, and that's the second biggest climb. And if you recall yesterday, that is where Mila Andreasen broke away on the final lap in our junior women's race. Just at the top, it was funny, they were both together. It looked like, oh, they're gonna crest that climb together. And then literally in that final 10 meters, Andreasen just put on a burst of speed, and Eriksson couldn't respond. And we've seen that a fair bit with the Norwegians attacking just in that final 10 meters of a big climb. And it'll be interesting to see if they use that strategy today. But there we've got Bergana of Norway, number 1, and Lisa Lohmann, number 7. And they've already opened up a gap on this first big climb on the first of 4 laps. This is very interesting. Bergana pushing the pace. And there's about 10, 15 meters there. Yes, you can see at the top of your screen. And Bergana looks over her shoulder. Only Lohmann can go with her. This is a rather courageous move here on Bergana's part to try and push the pace this early. And we can see a couple Norwegian skiers in there and a Swiss skier. Bergana pushing on the very first climb of the 20K mass start for the U23 women.
Yeah, Stephen, why it's so important to really push over the top is you can carry more speed into that descent, and that help that gap increase even more.
Yeah, and you can see Lohmann passing her on this descent here. Looks like Lohmann's got some good skis.
Yeah, we'll see if this group actually comes together on the next climb, or if those 2 women off the front keep pushing the pace and break early.
So again, Bergana has been racing on the World Cup, and she did race the Tour de Ski, and all the stages on the final stage at Val di Fiemme, the big climb, she got 8th on that stage. So definitely in good form. If she's recovered well from that Tour de Ski, she could be on really strong form. And this is the first time we're seeing her at these U23 World Championships, because she's not a sprinter. She skipped the sprint races, but now in the distance race, she is pushing the pace, Tim. And as we look at the course here, so you can see that course profile, that first climb that goes up to about the 1,000 meters distance.
Yeah, they just completed that climb and came down to the descent, and they're going to start that next climb, the longest climb, taking them to the top of the course. And we'll pick up the camera over there. And then once they pass the camera, they're going to be going through a big rolling section and slowly start descending all the way back to the stadium. So not only do you have to be a strong climber on this course, you have to be a good descender. A lot of those descents have sharp corners to them. You got to stay on your feet.
Yeah, you can see in that course profile, there's 2 big climbs to the top point, the highest point on the course, and then a lot of descent. So big climbs up front, then a lot more of a descent, and then that long double pole section at the finish. And also you can notice the altitude that we're at. So about 900 meters, so about 2,800, 3,000 feet. So not too high of an elevation. You know, very similar elevation that they're going to see in Planica in Slovenia for the World Senior Championship. So, Tim, let's look at the start again. Looks like a clean start.
Yeah, this is always the most nerve-wracking part of racing, is that holding still just before the gun goes off. You know, your heart rate's going, you're excited, adrenaline's going, you want to just get the race started. And so, yeah, clean start. We've got a slight downhill. You can see some of those lead athletes tucking there, and they just got to be careful that the draft effect doesn't happen and it bunches up too much. And oftentimes you can see broken poles and equipment. We saw coaches there standing with spare poles, things like that, but everyone looked pretty clean. A little bit of a bunch up in the middle, but everyone skied away without any broken equipment.
And you can see Bergana, who's pretty much led right from the start, and she's pushing the pace here. Oh, look at that. So they did come back together on the descent. We've got 2, 4, 10, I'd say about 12 skiers there. And you know what? You can see 12 and 13 just at the back of the pack. Those are the Casacue sisters in those blue suits, 12 and 13, just at the back of that front pack, twin sisters.
An American up there, number 8, Sydney Palmer-Ledger, still with that lead pack, which is great to see.
What a start by Sydney Palmer-Ledger for the Americans. She is the best placed American right now. The skier from Park City, Utah, is making that selection of about 12 skiers. What a start.
And she's
for
positioned
Sydney.
so well. It's just the back of that pack. She can chill, she can relax. She doesn't need to push the pace or anything. If she can hang on there for the next 4 laps, you know, she has a shot with her sprinting background.
Oh, and we see 28.
Yeah, Lillian Gagnon with Sophie Lauchley and Novi McCabe skiing there, chasing down that front group. If they can close the gap in this second half of the course, you know, they can hang on there and keep this pack together.
There we see 36, Jasmine Lyons, the University of New Hampshire skier skiing for Team Canada.
Anna Perron went through the screen, as well as Amelia Wells. So our Canadians have all gone through halfway of the first lap.
Yeah, so this is the big climb. And that was interesting to see, like Sydney Palmer-Ledger caught up on the descent and then skied with that lead pack. So Sydney Palmer-Ledger, University of Utah, is here, and she is just a first-year U23. Sydney Palmer-Ledger, I believe, born in 2002. And it was interesting, Sydney Palmer-Ledger, I remember about 2 years ago, Canmore Super Tour, all of a sudden she burst onto the scene with some really great results. So, and having so far a good start here. And what's cool about Sydney Palmer-Ledger, if you go back a few years, she was 3-time U.S. national mountain bike champion. So, you know, that vibe, that mountain bike vibe in the Squamish Whistler area is obviously, she's feeling it here.
Yeah, I'm curious if she's mountain biked on some of these trails in the summer.
Yeah, that would be interesting, but yeah, definitely a strong start. That is definitely something of note, that Sydney Palmer-Ledger is going with that lead pack. And again, the Casacue twins from Estonia, they are right in there as well. So there's the Olympic rings, and oh, just the goosebumps. Whenever I see those Olympic rings, the goosebumps I feel from those 2010 Winter Olympics.
Just think of the goosebumps that athletes must be experiencing seeing those Olympic rings.
Exactly. Okay, so now we're descending
and you
here.
can see some of those athletes standing up, you know, they don't want to make any passing, bunch up too much in these tight corners, and so they'll stand up, relax, be a little cautious in some of these downhills because it's still so early in the race.
So we got a little more of a selection there. Looked like maybe down to about 9 or 10 skiers in that lead group. So going over the top part of the course, just a little bit of separation for our lead pack. Again, we're just on the first of 4 laps here. So already some aggressive racing, aggressive pace setting
by the Norwegians, in particular, Margrethe Bergana of Norway. This is the descending part of the course. The first half, lots of big climbs, 2 big climbs to the top part of the course, and then a lot of snaking descents down to the bottom of the course. Small climb up just above the stadium, and then descending into the stadium completes 1 lap.
And you can see there, Steve, they're kind of doing a bit of a parallel turn into that corner. One thing you got to be cautious about is that you don't take off too much of your grip wax. So as you're skidding around a corner, you know, the snow, depending on how abrasive it is, can take off some of the grip wax, which is going to affect the climbing later on in the race.
And another thing to note about Bergana, the Junior World Championships 2 years ago, she won the classic mass start 15K race. So she has some experience winning this style of race. But it was interesting. She pushed the pace, and several skiers were able to get back to her on the descent. And we talked to him with the Norwegian coach about the different skiers, and he highlighted that Bergana, very, very strong skier, but a quiet skier. She does the work. She trains hard. She means business when she races. She doesn't talk a big talk, but she races a big race. And there's your lead pack, so it's coming back together. We can see number 2, Sophia
We got
Laukley.
Canadian up there too, and Novi McCabe's just bridging that gap. Yeah, so it's nice to see. There was probably about 15, almost close to 20 women there in that lead pack with the chase group, not that far back.
Yeah, it's interesting, Tim, as an athlete, when you push the pace early on, and you get a gap and you think, okay, I'm feeling good, I'm feeling strong, but then everyone catches back on the descent, or large amounts of people catch back on the descent. It kind of, it hurts your motivation a little bit, because you're thinking, well, if I just push the pace on the climbs, I'm using up my energy and they're just gonna catch back up to me. Now Novi McCabe, number 4, just desperate moments there. She wants to get into that lead pack, get a little bit of a draft on this descent. But Bergana at the front, Lisa Lohman from Germany in second, Sydney Palmer-Ledger of the US up there, Sophia Laukley getting back. There's Novi McCabe, the center of your screen, and French, Finland, then one of the Canadian skiers, I believe that's Liliane Gagnon, sitting in a top 20 spot right now. Liliane Gagnon racing the Tour de Ski back in early January.
Yeah, I have her coming through the time point in 15th place. You know, so she's still in that lead group. So this is looking like an excellent race for her. You know, Steve, going back to that whole like pushing hard on the climbs and then people catching on the descents, not only is it a physical race out there, it's also a mental race out there, that mental battle of people catching you and passing you.
Now, one thing that's interesting, Tim, is in that top 6 or 7, you'll see an Italian skier, number 19, Martina De Centa. She is liking these trails. Now, you know, we talk about her as the daughter of the great Giorgio De Centa, but, you know, just highlighting some of her results. She raced the Tour de Ski. She finished 32nd, and some strong results there. She was 29th in the 15K Classic stage of the Tour de Ski. So she is looking really good here, and I would be certain that her dad is watching this broadcast right now, and I think De Centa, you see her, she's sitting about 10th place, number 19 there.
Yeah, she's not wearing that gold toque like her father did. It was so easy to point out in a race.
So now we've got this long double pole section in the stadium, and saw an interview with Novi McCabe after the sprint races and saying, you know, it's a long double pole. You really need some power. And Bergana, who's not a sprinter, is thinking, I don't want this to come down to a sprint, because she's not going to have a great chance if it comes down to a sprint. So she's pushing the pace, but, you know, big pack there, and number 28 in that pack.
Yeah, we got 1 Canadian, 2 Americans in that pack, which is great to see some North American action up in the front of this race.
Yeah, we got so many different countries represented. Norway, Germany, Switzerland with 2 there, Italy, Canada, the US, Estonia. So a great first lap here for our under 23 women, 20K, 4 laps of the 5K course.
And Steve, there, you could just see the look of Bergana's face as she laps through. Just pure focus. She wants to win this race, and she's just gonna probably take the lead, and we'll probably see her, I hope that she starts to attack on the second lap. And here's that chase group we see for women chasing down that lead pack. There was American Novi McCabe and Jasmine Lyons, the Canadian, in there.
So this is the climb out of the stadium, and this is a great shot to see all the countries represented. We saw Liliane Gagnon go through the picture. Bergana, she is trying to push the pace. The first climb, the second climb, that is her strategy. You can see she's spreading it out here now. This is her strategy. She does not want to mess around. She's decided, I am going to push the pace the whole way and try and shed the skiers before the final lap. That is clearly her strategy.
Yeah, and like we saw right off the start too, Lisa Lomans just right on the tails of her skis and probably thinking, I'm going to stick with her and see how long I can hang on.
I work with the national team,
Okay, so let's, we caught up yesterday with Eric Denise of the Canadian team, the junior coach, and he's going to talk a little bit about the Canadian team.
A young group of women, all first year under 23s, except for Anna Perrin. Anna Perrin's been skiing classic very well early in the season, so I look for a top result from her, as well as Liliane Gagnon. In early season racing, she's been performing quite well. And our other two starters, you know, it's their first time at this level, so just looking for some solid ski racing from them.
Yeah, so some great comments there that this is a young team, and you can see just one of the Canadian skiers
Jasmine Lyons there in that chase group.
Yeah, so many first-year U23, so this is giving them a lot of experience to race, and I think Liliane Gagnon showing off some great form.
Yeah, you can see just there she is, bib number 28 as she's starting this climb.
So the other Norwegian skier, and there is Martina Decenta just coming to your screen. There is Sophia Laukli, then Liliane Gagnon, then one of the Kasseku twins. But the other skier that's pushing the pace for Norway, we'll just talk a little bit about
there's Jasmine Lyons there, just a couple slips, but again, one or two slips, totally normal, totally fine in classic technique. And coming up to the plateau here, if she can just do a little push and get back onto the tails of another skier, and help get pulled around the course.
So this is a great shot where you see the separation of 20 or 30 skiers. And again, Bergana, number 1, is pushing the pace, but the other skier there, number 11, Emma Murk, she's just a first-year U23. She took a bronze last year in the Junior World Ski Championships in the 5K Classic.
Steve, here in this shot, we see a coach standing on the side of the trail. I believe that's Dave Wood. He's now retired as a coach, but he was the coach of the Canadian Olympic team here in 2010.
That is right, Dave Wood. Long-time great coach here in Canada, lives in Roslyn, BC, and had some great results with Team Canada in those 2010 Olympics. So there we see, oh, now the Norwegians starting to emerge. You can see 4 red suits, and then that suit in the middle, that is the German suit, then the Swiss.
And I believe that's Sydney Palmer-Ledger, who's still,
Number 8, just off the back, and then you can see another one of the German skiers up there, but now some more separation as Bergana and Murk pushed the pace for Norway, but it wasn't enough to shed about 6 or 7 skiers. And what we've seen is the other skiers catching up on the descent. So maybe Norway going with a little more kick and a little bit less glide as far as the wax combination, right? You're always trying to balance the two when you've got a classic race.
You want maximum speed on those descents, but you want to make sure you have enough grip for those climbs, that you're not struggling too much and using up too much energy climbing.
So just highlighting some of the skiers there. You see a couple of the Polish skiers there. Kobeliusz, and also number 41, Kaleta, skis with the University of Colorado, university skier.
And I believe that's Anna Perrin just coming up to the top of the hill, out of your screen now.
So if you're just joining us, this is the second biggest climb. This is this happens about 1 kilometer or so into the course. Then they have a descent where you can actually, it's the one descent on this course that you can get some recovery, relax, but then they come up the biggest climb to the halfway point of the course, and the highest point on the course is where our lead skiers are heading right now. Again, just to recap.
Yeah, Steve, that is a good point about that descent because, you know, we talked about halfway through the course, you're sort of done climbing and then you're going to the descending, but all those descents are on tricky corners that you're using your legs to push around, making sure you can attack on the corners versus this descent here, you can actually sit in the track and get some recovery.
Yeah, we just saw 44 Amelia Wells for Canada go through the screen and also Anna Perron for Canada on that downhill. But just to recap, we've got Bergana and Mørk of Norway pushing the pace. There's a lead group of maybe about 7 skiers, and now we're gonna come to the big climb. This is the biggest climb to the high point on the course. There's about 2.5 kilometers, mostly of climbing, and 2.5 kilometers of rolling and downhill terrain towards the stadium with one last climb before the stadium. But this is the big climb, and it's gonna be interesting to see. Bergana is clearly trying to set a fast pace. And Mørk of Norway is also working with her at the front of this pack. And we're going to see them coming to the screen
Yeah,
shortly.
and this was very similar to how the junior men's race folded out or played out, is all those 4 Norwegians were up at the very, very front. And that's what we saw coming up over that last climb, was all 4 Norwegians right near the front, pushing that pace. So, yeah, it could be anyone's race, though.
Yeah, so this climb, this is where Andreasen on the final lap really consolidated her lead. She wanted to get ahead, and then on this climb really stretch it out, and that's what she did on the final lap to go to a Junior World Ski Championship. And here we go. Here's our lead pack right now. So there is 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 skiers, and then a small chase group of 3. Sydney Palmer-Ledger in that chase group. But once again, Bergana setting the pace here on the biggest climb here on the second of 4 laps. Mørk of Norway, number 11, just behind her. And then the German, Lisa Lohmann.
Yeah, and then the other 2 Norwegians, Fosnes and Foyen, who, you know, had an excellent sprint race. So again, if they can stay in this lead pack here, watch out for them on that final straightaway.
You know, I got to say, I'm surprised here with Fosnes. She is a sprinter. She got the silver medal in the sprint. Her distance results this year haven't been that strong, but she's right in there. She's clearly holding the pace of Bergana, who certainly is our favorite here.
And the other German in that group, bib number 6, Helen Hoffmann from Germany. You know, she was first place in the skate race at World Juniors last year. So, you know, look, first year U23. So, yeah, look for her. She could have an excellent race today as well.
And there we see 28 just leaving your screen. Oh, and look at this move here, 36 for Canada. That is Jasmine Lyons. She is moving up. She's just off that front group. She was quite a bit further back. She is catching that front group. She's hitting her stride, so to speak.
Yeah.
And I like that. I mean, she was so strong at Canadian World's Trials. She'll also, I believe, maybe even go to the World Championships, or she would have qualified it. But Jasmine Lyons is coming on strong, and
Sitting
I think
in
she could be a
14th
factor
place right
in
now
this
overall.
race. Yeah.
Right behind Lillian Gagnon. You know, if she can ski right up to her and get a ride, and they can actually work together.
Okay, so we've got Tom Stephen, junior World Championship medalist, standing by. Let's go down to Tom Stephen.
Hey, thanks, guys. Yeah, the leader right now is really putting down a hard pace, and she looks like she's starting to string out the group. So it's going to be interesting to see how she plays this race. I think she's just going to try to go from it from the start and not leave it down to a sprint. I was just up on top of the course, and it looked like the people behind her were really struggling. So yeah, they're really putting the work in to keep up with her.
Okay, Tom, so just a couple questions. So a couple of the Canadians that we're seeing, Jasmine Lyons and Liliane Gagnon. Looks like Jasmine Lyons is coming on strong. Any thoughts on Gagnon and Lyons in this race?
Yeah, from what I saw, Lyons was just barely making touch with the pack on the lead, so she really needs to get in there to have a chance at a top 10 finish. But Liliane is right there. She's in the pack. She's looking strong for the last time I saw her, so she has a good chance of doing a really, really solid race. it'll be interesting to see how those two play out in the end of the day.
Okay, thanks, Tom. I think we're just going to cut back to our live coverage, but that was a fantastic update from Tom. I like what he said about Lyons. She's got to get back into that pack. If she can get in there, then she can get a bit of a draft and she can rest. But that was great trackside update from Tom Stephen, medalist from the 2020 Junior World Ski Championships.
Yeah, and it looks like they're a little more strung out coming through this descent now. We'll see again as they're coming back to the stadium if the group's going to come back together or if Bergana actually is strung it completely out. And there's Jasmine Lyons coming through, Novi McCabe right behind her.
Yeah, so a strong race for Jasmine Lyons ahead of Novi McCabe. But this is a critical section. If she can descend, get a little bit of recovery, and get back to that pack, I think we could see her build up over the course of this race. They're just on the second of 4 laps. 4 5-kilometer laps, 20K mass start, exactly the same distance that the manual race. And this is really cool. This is, you know, we talked about it in the junior men's and women's broadcast, that the equal distance is something that's new for FIS this year. And the first World Championship event with equal distances for men and women is this event here at Whistler. Okay, so we're just getting an update. We do have a DNF. We see a couple more Canadians go through the screen. So this is the descending part of the course. Yeah, so you see 34, Annabelle Needham. Oh, and we've got, yes, this is a skier out. That is Amanda Sari. Very strong Finnish skier out of this race. Not sure what happened, but she's on the ground. She was definitely someone that I think was looking for a top 10 here today, and she is out of this race again. Not sure what happened. Medical staff there. I think she doesn't look too bad, but she is definitely out of this race. Amanda Sari of the Finnish team. This is the Estonian skier. So this is just showing just a little ways. This is kind of our second, third group, and there is our lead pack. We're down to 5. Maybe 6 skiers. We've got 2 Norwegians, 2 Swiss skiers, and 2 Germans. Then 1 more Norwegian skier trying to get on the pack there. Also Sydney Palmer-Ledger just coming into your screen there. Number 8, the Park City, Utah skier. And then Martina De Centa of Italy trying to get back to that lead pack on this descent.
And again, you can see they're going into probably the trickiest corner on that whole descent, where it's a right-hander right into a sharp left-hand corner.
This is that snaking descent, and you can kind of see as they set up, they're turning right, and if you watch closely, then they have to quickly set up for a sharp left-hand corner, and they descend down, and then there's a small climb to above the stadium, and they'll descend into the stadium. So we're at the 9-kilometer point, so we're not quite at the halfway point of this 20K mass start classic race for the under 23 women. More women on this descent.
And here, Steve, this is the final climb of the course. This is where we saw in the junior men's race, Hallback breakaway. So if this pack is still together, look for someone making a charge on this climb on that last lap.
Yeah, anyone that's thinking, I don't want it to come down to a double pole finish in the stadium, this is the climb they're going to attack on. So there's one of the Casacue sisters. That's number 12. That's Katie Casacue. Glad we have the numbers on these skiers, because I cannot tell Katie and Kaidi Casacue, the Estonian twins,
and there
apart.
You can see they're taking feeds now, grabbing a bottle from their coach. You know, there's some kind of sugary electrolyte mix in those bottles to just try to give them a little more fuel for this 20-kilometer race.
And there we've got Sydney Palmer-Ledger coming through your screen. A little bit of separation on that climb. This is Margrethe Bergana, then Lisa Lohmann of Germany, and then 2 more Norwegians, 2 Swiss, and another German skier.
Yeah, and as Tom said earlier, just how strong and focused Bergana is, and you can start to see, you know, this is where you can look for the body language if the other women are starting to labor or tire at the pace that Bergana is setting.
And one thing, Tim, that we've talked, that we want to talk about is that this isn't just, there's the individual competition, but there's also a team competition.
That's right. There's also bragging rights, especially for that junior category. Bragging rights for the nation, for a trophy.
That's right. So that's for the junior skiers. This is for the U23, but the Mark Hodler Trophy for the juniors is based on points over all the different competitions. And the two countries that typically battle often for that are Norway and Germany. So we're seeing that also here in the U23 race. Margrethe Bergana leading, but you can see how those skiers catch up on the descent. Helen Hoffman, the first year U23 skier, just hanging on the back of that pack. And we know the American skier. And look at this, the Swiss skiers, they're just relaxing. They've got the glide. This is going to be interesting. It's Bergana again pushing the pace on this first climb out of the stadium. Bergana has one mission: set a fast pace, set a hard pace, and she's gradually separating the field, but there are 6 skiers staying with her.
This race reminds me so much from that junior men's race yesterday, Steve, of just how Antola was leading every single climb, pushing the pace, knowing he had to try and break the skiers, and the Norwegians just kept up. And so we're seeing that here today. Bergana's pushing the pace. She's out front the whole time, and there's skiers that are sticking with her. And so we'll see what plays out.
And we can see number 10, Foyen, just off the pack, off the main pack. Then we've got Sydney Palmer-Ledger and Martina Decenta of Italy, Palmer-Ledger of the US. Okay, we're gonna take it down to Tom Stephen trackside to talk with, I think 16-time Paralympic gold medalist Brian McKeever for some insights.
Yeah, hey, thanks, guys. I'm here with Brian McKeever, Olympic gold medalist and probably one of the most decorated Paralympians of all time. On the Whistler course. Brian, you've raced this course multiple times and won gold on it. What do you think of the race and how it's shaping up today?
It's looking really good so far. Beautiful day here in Whistler. I mean, you know how it is here. You can have 4 seasons in a day, and it's looking like beautiful classic skiing. I think you know this course quite well too, Tom, and I know it skis quite hard, but it skis beautifully as a classic course. But from the stadium here, it's all up for about 4 or 5 minutes, and it's solid.
What do you think the strategy is today? Do you think it's important just to lead off the start, or do you think it's better to play a bit more of a tactical game in the race?
I think, you know, these mass starts are always hard because it's the pace isn't always up to you. But you know, got to be in it in order to give yourself a chance. So you got to stay close, but definitely find a pack and sit in as much as possible. But this is a war of attrition out here, especially in these longer races. Somebody starts pushing the pace on the climb, and you know, people just fade off of the group. So it's very, very hard.
Yeah, we've seen that today. There's been a lot of thinning out of the group as the lead just keeps pushing hard and hard. And this group of 7 right now, do you think that will come down to a sprint finish, or do you think it'll stay 7 until the finish?
It's hard to say on this course. I think there's a good chance if somebody's strong and just starts pushing it, it could spread out really, really fast. But I think we'll see that on the last lap for sure.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Back to you guys.
Oh, such great insights from Brian McKeever as we can see that lead pack. There's bib number 3, bib number 6, just fading off that lead group, just as Brian described it, from the leaders pushing that pace on the climb.
Yeah, Bergana pushing even that smaller climb out of the stadium. That was just enough to create some separation, some distance. And that, and now both Swiss skiers have fallen off the pace. So just at the back, that's number 5, Anja Weber, just falling off the pace, and a little bit of a slip there by number 3, Nadja Kalin. So we're down to 4.
Yeah, it looks like we got Bergana still leading, Lisa Lohman right tucked in behind her, and then Fosnes and Foyen from that sprint race sticking on their tails.
Yeah, no, actually it's Fosnes, and I think that's Murk, number 11.
Oh, you're right, Steve.
Yes, I think Foyen just falling off the pace. She's just behind those skiers you see on your screen. So Murk, who didn't race the sprint, is in that group. She's just a first-year U23. And there is number 11, Murk, going up on the inside. This is her first race of the championships. But let's talk a little bit about Lisa Lohman, the German. It's very clear she is happy just to sit on the skis of Margrethe Bergana, and she's looking very fresh.
Yeah, she is as well skied in the Tour de Ski this year, placed 34th overall. So, you know, coming from that grueling 7-day stage race, if she's gotten some recovery from there, she could perform really well today.
And I'm surprised, again, by Fosnes, number 9 of Norway. She got a silver medal in the sprint and she's had incredible sprint results this season, but her distance results were not that strong coming into this race. But if she can hang with that pack, she is going, I got to pick her for the sprint if she can hang with the pack. But we're on the third lap here. We're through the first really tough climb. They're going to have a descent, rest a bit, and then they've got the big climb to the top of the course. And that'll be the penultimate time, the second last time up that big climb. This is the second biggest climb that you see, and this is a great view, you know, this plateau that you remember from those Olympic games, showing the skiers along the plateau. Then they've got this climb. See some of our American skiers. That's 34, Annabelle Needham from Houghton, Michigan, skis with Michigan Tech. Little funny, interesting little thing about her. She wants to be sponsored, or at least her team sponsored by Culver's Restaurants in Wisconsin. If you've ever been to Wisconsin and Michigan area, they're a a casual dining restaurant, but their top their top food is butter burgers and frozen custard. And yeah, that's, again, if you've been in Wisconsin and Michigan, you know all about
Butter
Culver's.
burgers and frozen custard.
Yeah, and that's what Annabelle Needham likes after a big race like this.
So if Culver's is listening, you could deliver some here to Whistler.
That would be great, yes. So there, again, a few more of the Canadian skiers making their way up this second biggest climb. And then there's this descent. And this, Tim, we skied this course earlier, not nearly as fast as these skiers, but I found, you come over that climb, that first big climb, and this is a really nice resting spot. You can get a bit of relaxation before that corner and just recover a bit, but then you've got that big climb to the top of the course, and it's kind of a false flat and just gets steeper and steeper and steeper up to the top of the course.
I know we mentioned this is the only spot on this course to get a rest, but it's not that long. We're talking about 4 or 5 seconds of rest. It really is all you have on this course.
Because the other descents, they're back and forth. Yeah, it's just back and forth on the descent, and so just hard to rest. And when you're on classic skis, right, it's like you don't have the same control that you do have on skate skis.
Exactly. So when you're stepping around those corners, you're constantly using all your leg muscles as you're stepping through the corner, and they don't get a chance to actually rest and recover.
Okay, now this is very interesting. Those 3 skiers that have fallen off the pace are back in this pack, and this is the big climb, and you can see the body language of Margreta Bergana. She is pushing that pace. That is a skier that's pushing really, really hard. Then behind her is the silver medalist from the sprint just 2 days ago, Fosnes, looking very strong. Lisa Lohmann just behind her, the German, looking very fresh. Then number 11, Mork of Norway. Then the 2 Swiss skiers and the German Helen Hoffmann. Swiss skiers Anja Weber and Nadja Kalin. Nadja Kalin, number 3, she won the Engadine ski marathon last year. Oh, a little bit of a slip there by Mork, number 11, but everything looking good, Tim, for Hoffman and Fosnes.
It's got to be going through Bergana's mind of like, I do not want this to come to a sprint finish, and you can just tell from her body language that she is pushing there to try and break away from the rest of the field.
And she is creating a bit of a gap, but not that much of a gap on this climb when they were suffering earlier on that other climb. Now on this descent, it is a windy descent, but if you're a good descender, you can make up a lot of time.
Or if your skis are fast, you could come back pretty easily to this group. And so if you don't have a big enough of a break at the top of this climb, going into that final lap, those other skiers could come right back to you, and it could end up in a sprint finish.
And a few more climbers, a few more people coming up to
that's
climb.
Jasmine Lyons leading this chase pack, which is great to see.
So she is in that second group, and they are closing that gap, or at least a reasonable gap there. Also in there, Novi McCabe. That is very interesting. Jasmine Lyons, I'm not sure if she can get to that front pack, but she is looking stronger and stronger every lap here as we're on the 3rd lap.
And that's exactly how she skied a trials race in Prince George, just so we could go every lap just stronger, stronger, stronger until the final lap she broke away.
And this is the big climb to the top of this course here, this 5K loop here at Whistler Olympic Park, site of the Nordic events for the 2010 Vancouver Olympics. Here we've got number 15, Germana Tannheimer of Germany. Germany, very strong race here. 2 skiers in that front group, Lisa Lohmann and Helen Hoffman, both having won gold medals at previous World Juniors. And there's now a front group of 3, Bergana, Fosnes, and
Lisa Lohmann
on the descent. And you know, just talking about the descent, Tim, you know, we talk so much about the climbs because that's, you know, that's where the hurt is, that's where you feel it. But the descents are so critical. You know, I know at the Davos World Cup earlier this year, Jessie Diggins was, I think, 5 seconds behind the lead skier going into the final kilometer descent, and she made up that 5 seconds or 3 seconds on that final descent. And often when you start to break things down, it's actually the descents where you start to see some meaningful separation. So it's going to be interesting to see if on this descent, the other skiers can catch back on to those front three leaders.
Yeah, that's a good point there, Steve. You know, we're always talking pushing the climbs, but if you can just save a little bit of energy on those climbs and actually push on the descents, you can sometimes make up way more time in a race than if you were to push super hard on the climbs and use up all the fuel in your tank.
And there is number 34, Annabelle Needham, looking for some sponsorship from Culver's Restaurants there in the Wisconsin-Michigan area. There's 39, one of the Swedish skiers. That's Ella Olsen. I don't believe any relation to the great Johan Olsen. And we've got one of our Aussie skiers,
I believe
Rosie
2 of
Fordham.
our Australian skiers.
Oh yeah, and there's Tuva Bygrave, number 43. She's with University of Alaska at Anchorage. And there's our 3 leaders, and they've got maybe 3 or 4 seconds now on the 2 Swiss skiers. As they...
And you can hear them breathing as they come up that climb there. They are redlining already, and they have 1 more lap to go yet.
Yeah. And it's always interesting with the breathing. You know, I watched a presentation by the great physiologist Stephen Sealer, lives in Norway, he's American, and he was saying that, you know, heart rate is often, you know, very, very often used for measuring for endurance sports, but he said breathing rate is becoming slowly recognized as maybe a more valuable measure of the physiology. And so listening to the breathing rates is very interesting here.
But those 2 Swiss skiers pushing hard on this descent to come back. They might actually make contact with those leaders.
Yeah, so there's only about 3 or 4 seconds. Yeah, and it's less than that now.
Yeah, and so exactly what we talked about earlier, pushing in those descents, you know, maybe they didn't push as hard on the climbs, but they're pushing on the descents and they're coming back to the leaders, and now they're probably well rested, setting up for that final climb into the stadium. You know, they still have 1 more lap to go.
So here we see our second pack. We can see Casicue, number 12, Novi McCabe, number 4, and 2 Canadians, Tim,
yeah,
in that
Lillian
second group.
Gagnon and Jasmine Lyons still there. You know, it looks like they're skiing. They could have top 10 finishes here today if they keep up this pace.
Yeah, you know, this is so interesting that the Swiss skiers are catching back easily on the long descent. And this climb just to above the stadium doesn't seem to be enough for Bergana to really separate herself. And we're just about to finish the 3rd lap. So I think it's very clear the strategy for Bergana. Keep the pace high, push on the 2 climbs, and try and shed at least the Swiss skiers, but I'm not sure. This is going to be very, very interesting, this final lap.
Yeah, you're right, Steve. They're going to come through the stadium here, and I think Bergana's got to go on those next 2 climbs if she's going to break away.
Yeah, and I think it sets it up not too bad for the Norwegian team, because I think Bergana's going to push the pace, and if she can't get a gap, Fosnes, the Norwegian who took a silver in the sprint, is going to look pretty good if it comes down to a sprint with anyone else. But there's your 3 leaders, Bergana, Lohmann, and Fosnes. 2 Norwegians, 1 German. But the Swiss skiers, 2 of them, then the last skier, the German Helen Hoffmann,
Yeah,
and then that 3rd Norwegian.
And so as we saw in this 3rd lap, there's got to be a big break in order for Bergana to keep that lead, because definitely those skiers came back in that descent.
Okay, so just looking at that 14-kilometer checkpoint, Lillian Gagnon sitting 13th, Jasmine Lyons sitting 14th right now for the Canadians. Jasmine Lyons looking to seemingly getting stronger and stronger each lap. But there we go, coming through the stadium, lapping through. This is the final time they'll lap through. They have 5 more kilometers. And it's Bergana continuing to push the pace as she had from the start gun. Lohman, as she has from the start, has sat in 2nd or 3rd spot.
Lohman's looking quite relaxed here, which is great to see. You know, it looks like she's still saving something for this 4th and final lap.
I wonder if Lohman is thinking of an attack. Does she have it? She looks so relaxed. Like her body language is like, I'm just sitting here relaxed. Where Bergana, you can tell she's pushing the pace as hard as she can. Fosnes thinking, just hold on for the sprint, just hold on for the sprint.
And the Swiss
skiers thinking, just hold on, because we know we got faster skis on the descent. We know we can handle that descent. So just control it.
If those Swiss skiers can stay with this, with Bergana up over the climb and push in those downhills, they could actually break away on the descents.
You're right. That is absolutely what they could do. Again, a little bit of separation here.
You know, Bergana knows she's got to go. She's got to push every single climb. That's her strength, and she's got to try to take advantage of her strength.
Now, again, one of those Swiss skiers, Anja Weber, number 5, her sister, raced yesterday.
Nope, that's number 3, Kaylin. Nadia Kaylin's sister raced yesterday.
Right, getting the sisters mixed up. So many sisters and siblings. Yeah, number 3, Nadia Kaylin, her sister, finished 5th yesterday for the junior women. Can she beat that placing of her younger sister? But a little bit of separation there.
I wonder if the sisters have a little competition, little side bet going on, you know, who's going to get a better result in their race.
Well, we saw that with the Danielsson brothers for Sweden. You know, the one brother, the younger brother, got the silver in the sprint, and the older brother got the bronze. So definitely some family battles here. But the Swiss skiers, very dangerous here with the faster skis. And there's Bergana, like every lap. Bergana setting the pace on these climbs. Lisa Lohman,
she just looks
sitting in 2nd.
Lisa Lohman just looks like she has so much control, so relaxed as she's sticking to Bergana.
Yes, Bergana gritting her teeth, Lohman is like the Terminator, just waiting for the moment to pounce. Oh, and gasping for oxygen is the sprinter Fosnes. Can she hold on? Mork moving up, number 11. Then the 2 Swiss skiers, Kaylin and Weber, and then Helen Hoffmann, a junior world champion last year in Norway, first-year U23 skier. And you don't know, Tim, like this is the thing, you're watching this race, you don't know their physiology right now. Like, are they right at their limit? Are they ready to blow up? Or is someone like Lohman sitting there going, when do I make my move? She's a good sprinter. She's had some good races. In fact, she has won, I believe, a junior world championship
in the classic sprint.
In the classic sprint, exactly, Tim. And so I think she's thinking about that, but also she's got to think about Fosnes on her, just at the back of her skis. We know Fosnes has a big sprint. And it looked like Fosnes was gasping for oxygen, and this is a great shot of Bergana pushing here on this climb.
When we're looking at the body language, Bergana, Lohman, and Fosnes, they're looking so strong and relaxed compared to Mork and number 11. I think these 3 women are breaking away, and we'll see if there's another break going to happen with these front 3 skiers.
And there is one of the Norwegian skiers pushing, knowing that this is where they want to get a gap on the Swiss skiers. What a great shot here.
You see how Bergana is just getting a little more hunched over the top of the climb. That's a sign that you're fatiguing. The body is getting tired.
as Lohman and Fosnes jump out of the track to get a little more grip in the soft snow. Now this is a great shot of seeing how much of a gap they've got. Is that enough for those three skiers to pull ahead of the Swiss skiers? That's Mork from Norway. Oh, very big gap now to the Swiss skiers and Helen Hoffman, the German skier. But this is where they can get a rest. This is the one descent where they can get a rest. Then the final time up the big climb to the top of the course. Now looking at our second group, you can see...
That's one of the Kasikus twins. We got, and the two Canadians in there. Oh.
Yeah, so just ahead of them, you see number 8 near the middle top of your screen. That is Sydney Palmer-Ledger of the US. And then number 19, the Italian skier Martina De Centa. Then you've got that pack just behind them. Kasiku, and then 2 Canadians in that group. Lyons and Gagnon, and then Novi McCabe, the American from Meadow Valley, Washington State. She's got lots of folks cheering her on. Her mom was an Olympian, Laura McCabe. And also
Foyen, and one Norwegian there.
Foyen is in there.
Number 10.
Novi McCabe also racing the Beijing Olympics last year. And then there's the second Kasiku sister from Estonia.
So you know, Steve, you were talking about where are they? Are they maxing out on this climb? And thinking back to those top 3 women going over the hill, just the body language, they had to have been fully maxed out on that climb.
On this type of course, it's really a test of wits and also of endurance.
Okay, so the tension is building here on this final lap for the under 23 women. 3 skiers have opened a gap on 4 other skiers. Bergana from Norway, from the gun, has pushed the pace. Very rarely has she not been at the front pushing the pace. But on the big downhills, the other skiers have been catching up to her, resting. Lisa Lohman, right from the gun, has been in second spot, more or less right on the skis of Bergana. And then Fosnes, the sprinter that won the silver medal 2 days ago in the sprint, gasping for oxygen, but hanging on with those 2 skiers. And they're shortly going to be making their way to the top of this course. And can Bergana break those other 2 skiers? Is Lohman having some gas left to push the pace? So there's about a 8-second gap between the front 3 skiers and that next group of 4 skiers. And here we go. They're now coming towards the biggest climb on this 5K loop. This is the final lap. Bergana continuing to push the pace, unrelenting. But Lohman and Fosnes just behind. Bergana, she's thinking, I'm just gonna push the pace. If all I get is a bronze medal, that's okay, but I'm trying right now to go for gold. But no distance to the 2 skiers behind her. Bergana of Norway.
Bergana skied this like an individual race. She's led right from the start, pushing the pace nonstop, and Lohman's been able to respond on every single attack and stick right with her.
Yeah, no, look at that. Lohman just seems so relaxed. Fosnes starting to look relaxed again as they hit the top point of this course.
I wonder what's going through Bergana's mind right now as she's cresting over the top of the course into the descent. Is it going to come to a sprint finish? And do I have enough to stick with these 2 sprinters?
Now 14 seconds between that lead group and the 2 Swiss skiers that have shown faster skiers, Tim. 14 seconds. Do you think it's possible that they can close the gap on these very long descents coming up?
Those top 3 skiers, they still look so strong. I think they just have a little more energy for that descent.
Yeah, this is going to be interesting. That might be too much time for the Swiss skiers to make up on the descent.
You can just see the body language. They're just not quite as snappy as they're cresting over the top of the hill. And that's super important, is that as you carry more speed over the top into the descent, you end up going faster coming out of the bottom of the descent.
So again, just to recap for anyone just joining us here for the final lap, Margrethe Bergana has pushed the pace right from the start, unrelenting. Lohmann has sat on her skis, and Fosnes of Norway, the sprinter, just doing everything she physically can to stay with those two to give herself a chance at a gold in the final sprint in that long double pole section in the stadium.
And here's our top two Canadians, Steve, coming through your screen. What an amazing race for them. That's Jasmine Lyons, bib number 36, and Lillian Gagnon, bib number 28.
So Gagnon sitting 12th, Lyons sitting 13th. They're about a minute and a half down on our leaders, but they're less than 15 seconds out of a top 10 finish. Less than 15 seconds. So now the descent. We also see Novi McCabe, the Washington State skier, Olympian, just off that second group. And there's our leaders. There's our leaders. Bergana still at the front. Lohmann still in second. Fosnes still in third. And Lohmann making a move on the inside. Moving to the front on the downhill.
She knows she has faster skis, and she knows she still has energy to push on that final climb. So she went for it on that descent there, Steve.
That is the first time we've seen Lohmann go to the front in this entire race. And there's the chase. The two Swiss skiers moving up. The fast skis of the Swiss team. Will it be enough to catch that lead pack?
Steve, there's also the first time we've seen an attack on a descent.
Oh my goodness. The Swiss skiers are gaining time. The Swiss skiers are gaining time. We'll get a time check shortly, but my goodness, could it happen? Could the Swiss skiers get in? And you know, Tim, we talk about a sprint, but the sprint in a sprint race is different than a sprint at the end of a 20K hard race. This was not a tactical race. This was Bergana saying, I'm gonna try and destroy the field. And that is almost what she's accomplished, but not quite. And now it's a sprint like, okay, you've got to almost use some of those slow twitch muscle fibers to sprint at the end of a 20K race.
It's more of a sprint with the mental side of things. Just who can suffer? Who can I'm hurting, I have so much pain, but I don't care, I'm going for it.
It's more of a mental game at the end of a 20K mass start, and you just have no idea what's going through their head. Who's thinking, I am just so hungry, I just gotta go so deep into the pain cave to try and get it.
Back out in front after that attack by Lohmann on the descent.
Okay, so don't see the Swiss skiers in the picture yet. This is that final, there's a little climb here. Bergana pushing the pace. Lohmann responding. Fosnes looking not too bad. Lohmann now making a little bit of a move. And there goes Fosnes through the middle. Fosnes now making a move through the middle.
As she crests over the top into another descent.
So on that descent, Fosnes just at the top of that climb, pushing the pace. Lohmann,
they got a kilometer to go, Steve, a kilometer to go.
There's your three leaders. Fosnes, for the first time in this 20K race, has moved to the front with one kilometer left.
And Lohmann's matching her.
Lohmann responding. Bergana has set the pace for 19 of 20 kilometers. They're gonna go under the bridge into the snaking descent. This is the crazy chicane descent. They make a right turn, and you can see right away they set up for a hard left turn. This is for a world championship for the U23 category. 3 women in the hunt.
Steve, I did not think it was going to come to this. I thought how Bergana was skiing laps 2 and 3 that she was going to break away, and now it's coming to the sprint in the last kilometer.
We're down to the final couple minutes, and there goes Lohmann. Lohmann making a charge, but Fosnes responding. Bergana can't meet the pace of those two. Fosnes now pushing over this climb just above the stadium. The silver medalist from 2 days ago making a charge, but Lohmann responding. Lohmann right on her tail. Bergana, who set the pace for Swiss skiers, not enough to catch back on. They're above the stadium. They're going to descend in the stadium shortly. There is Fosnies. There is Lohman. Lohman hungry for a medal after falling in the sprint, Tim. Oh my goodness. What is going to happen? It's a long, long double pole section. There's your two leaders, Fosnies and Lohman. They never led in the first 19 kilometers, but here we go, down to the stadium. Lohman knows she only has to worry about Fosnies. Fosnies with the silver medal. Can she make it a gold now? A silver in the sprint. They're down to the stadium. The final 300 meters. Fosnies leading it out. Lohman right on her tail. Fosnies trying to set a pace, but no, Lohman is still there. Lohman able to hold the pace. They're going to have the corner, and then the final 100 meters. Fosnies pushing the pace. Lohman's still there. Bergana, she'll get the bronze, but the final corner, Fosnies with the silver medal already into the final 100 meters. Lohman trying to respond. Fosnies on your left, Lohman on the right. They're coming into the finish. It is neck and neck, but Fosnies holding on. Fosnies pushing for a gold medal. Fosnies is going to be U23 world champion. Lohman silver, Bergana bronze.
Wow, I did not see that coming, Steve. What a finish. What a showing by Fosnies and Lohman.
A massive, massive battle for medals. The two Swiss skiers not able to come back. They closed the gap on the descent, but it wasn't enough. Fosnies in tears, a world champion.
Bergana led that race for 19 kilometers, and it came down to that final 1K, that sprint.
Lohman happy with the silver, but Fosnies, man, she was gasping for oxygen. And then Bergana, 19 kilometers, hammering the pace, trying to destroy the field. She's gonna come with a bronze medal.
And you could tell she was pushing laps 2, laps 3. She did not want it to come to that sprint finish, and it did. And that's where we saw those sprinters shine.
And here we've got DeCenta and Palmer Ledger in the sprint here. DeCenta from Italy, Palmer Ledger from the US. Palmer Ledger looking for a top 10 finish. The Park City, Utah skier coming in just ahead of Martina DeCenta of Italy. Then we've got, looks like Merck number 10 coming in. Sorry, Foyen number 10 coming in. But there's your world champion for U23. And then we've got the Canadians coming in.
Lillian Gagnon coming, crossing the line. Skied on the World Cup earlier this season, up and coming Canadian star, and Jasmine Lyons. What a race for the two women from Canada.
Yeah, they got to be happy with those. I mean, they were, I think that was 12th and 13th or so. And here's Novi McCabe.
Novi McCabe crossing the line, Olympian from Beijing, finishing off the race.
And there's one of the Kasacku sisters, the twins from Estonia. That's 13. That is Kaidi. Then the Italian Monsorno, the Italian sprint champion, just coming in. And if you're just joining us, it was Fosnies winning the sprint out of a pack of 3 to get a U23 World Championship.
Steve,
had a silver earlier, now a gold.
That just goes to show you the fitness of Fosnies right now. Silver medal in the sprint, gold in the 20K mass start.
And there's Lohman, your silver medalist. She had some disappointment in the sprint when she fell just at the end of her semifinal. She was so disappointed. She was looking so good, but she's got a silver medal here, and she's happy about that. She went for it. She came on the inside in that final 100 meters. She made a surge, but then Fosnies responded and pulled ahead. Oh, Fosnies, a world U23 champion. Tim, I did not expect that. That was the surprise. When we were analyzing the favorites, I said, I don't think she has it for a 20K mass start. And certainly, if you told me Margreta Bergana would set a pace like that for 19 kilometers and she hung in there,
You're right. You're
real.
absolutely right, Steve. The way Bergana was skiing, you know, at the 5 kilometer, the 10 kilometer mark, I thought there's no way anyone else is going to match that pace. And not only to match that pace, but then come down and sprint on that long double pole section.
And this is Lundgren Wikström from Sweden coming in. Then Hila Niemela, the star from the World University Games in Lake Placid with 3 gold. She collapses at the finish. Then we've got 35 from the French team, Didier Laurent. And here we've got a Canadian
Amelia
coming
Wells, BC resident from Vancouver Island, living in Canmore, and also attending university at the U of C.
And Mua Hansen, who was 4th in the classic sprint, just coming in. And we got the Swedish skier. That is Lundgren Wikström, and there is Fosnis. Oh, she's still trying to process, like, how deep did she have to dig? And if we get an interview, if we're able to get an interview with her, I want to just hear what she has to say about the pace that Bergana was setting. Really want to hear how she was able to handle that, as we've got another Canadian
There,
coming in.
Anna Baron from Canmore Nordic coming across the line. Her father, Alain Perron, coaches the Canmore Nordic team, as well as his daughter Anna, who just crossed the line.
Yeah, that's really cool connection there. And we've got the Italian Silvestri just coming in. But yeah, I want to understand what was going through Fosnis's mind as Bergana was just had, it's like getting your head in a vice and just squeezing it through, like you're just trying to hold on.
Especially as they lap through, going to their final lap, thinking, do I have enough to hang on to this pace for these next 2 climbs?
Here comes Ella Olsen of the Swedish team.
How do you spell your name?
And here comes 34. Annabelle Needham from Houghton, Michigan, looking for a sponsorship with Culver's Restaurants there, the great restaurant chain headquartered in Wisconsin and Michigan. And here we have Tuva Bygrave, skier with the University of Alaska at Anchorage. One parent is Norwegian, one parent is Australian. Here we've got 31 coming in. Sorry, yeah, 31. That is Honda of the Japanese team. And 42 coming in for the Australians, Rosie Fordham. The Australians, they mainly ski out of Falls Creek in the Australian Alps. If you're not familiar with that, Falls Creek had a lot of snow this year. Great skiing out at Falls Creek, and I heard they even had some skiing on Christmas Day, very unusual in the Southern Hemisphere. And here's 37, Reidener coming in of Liechtenstein. I think our first Liechtenstein athlete to race.
And the total population of Liechtenstein, Steve,
40,000 people.
40,000 residents live in Liechtenstein.
This is like an episode of Jeopardy. And here's a question that actually was on Jeopardy a couple weeks ago. How did Whistler, Tim, how did Whistler get its name? From the whistles of the marmots in the area. And that was actually on Jeopardy just a couple weeks ago. A sign that this was going to be a great event coming up. I'm sure of that. Okay, 26, Kobayashi coming in for Japan. I'm still trying to process Fosnis holding on to that pace. Totally unexpected. I don't know, I guess physically and mentally somehow came together and peaked for this event. unreal for Fosnis as
Just
we see
thinking back
Kobayashi
to
come
like
in.
17.5K into the race, you know, how composed, how relaxed Lisa Lohman still looked. I thought she was going to go for it. And then she made that attack on the descent. I was like, she's gone. She's going all the way now.
But it wasn't quite enough. And then you saw on that climb going above the stadium, that's when Fosnis went, and Lohman was right on her skis. And it looked, again, that final 100 meters, I thought, does Lohman just save it for the end? But not quite enough to overtake Fosnis in that sprint. But she's got to be pretty happy with that, knowing Fosnis took a silver medal in the sprint. Here's Karolina Kaleta of Poland. She actually skis with the University of Colorado team here in North America. So she'll be finishing up here in the 20K Mastart Classic for U23. And we've got the men still racing later today.
Yeah,
we're going to take a little break
race
at some point to process what just happened. But
so interesting you said about Fosnis making that attack on that final climb. You know, watching the 2010 Olympics, so many attacks took place on that same hill, and we saw it here today.
That's exactly it. You think back to the 2010 Olympics and that final climb, all those attacks. That's what Fosnis did here today.
I wonder if she watched any of those 2010 Olympics to analyze, learn from, use some of those tactics to race here today.
And we talked to the Norwegian coach, and he said, yeah, they're all sitting around watching those Olympic races that are on YouTube, and they understood the course for watching those, and she was probably thinking, that's the climb. If I can hold on, which she is still hard to believe that she was able to hold on to that pace. Once she was at that point, she knew she had to go there, get some space. She wasn't able to shake Lohman, but she put some pressure on and then held on in that double pole last 300 meters. Wow, what a beautiful setting. Now, at the start of the show, we were wondering about the weather, if that was going to throw some wrenches into this, but some blue skies come out, the snow has stopped, the conditions were quite stable, and so that definitely played into this, because I'm sure some of the teams are thinking, how do we want to wax for potentially variable conditions? But
yeah, the snow, there was a light dusting of snow early on, which only really played effect probably for the first lap, the pack skiers, and yeah, it didn't affect the whole race.
There's the Swedish team. And there's Japanese team. You know, Japan, very hard to travel there during COVID. So some of their first races in a few years coming to North America. There was the World University Games. There was some Far Eastern Cups in Korea, but not a lot of traveling for a few years there. And there we go, Tim, our top 10. Fosnis, unreal, wins the World Championship for U23 20K Mastart Classic. Lisa Lohman sat in second place almost the whole race, finished second. And Margrethe Bergana, the machine that set that pace, ends up in third.
She skied it just like that men's race there that, you know, Antola did. She had to go out strong and push the pace every single lap. And great results with Liliane Gagnon, 12th place. I believe that's the best result we've seen from our Canadian skiers at these championships. Jasmine Lyons, 13th, and Amelia Wells, BC resident, 27th, and Anna Perron, 30th place.
Yeah, Amelia Wells, so much positive energy with Amelia Wells, and she's got to be happy with that 27th, even happier than she normally is. Annabelle Needham from the U.S., from Michigan, 33rd. Annie Lindros there. Looks like she might have dropped out. That's interesting. So some beautiful sights here at Whistler Olympic Park. And we've got, so that was the women. We've got the men coming up this afternoon in about an hour and 15 minutes, Tim.
How is that race going to unfold? Are we going to see people pushing the pace? Are they going to be saving it for the sprint finish? What is going to happen in that men's race?
And I'm excited. I think Norway's going to have some very strong skiers once again, but I think it might be maybe Gus Schumacher of the U.S. that can challenge them.
I agree with you, Steve. I think there's going to be a good battle between the U.S. and Norway in that men's race coming up.
Yeah, what a battle that was for the U23 women. And what a start. You know, we were a little worried or thinking the weather was going to be a factor here, but the skies cleared, the snow stopped, and there's Bergana. Bergana had one mission today and set a very fast pace, and right off the gun, there's Bergana, there's Bergana, there's Bergana for 19 kilometers.
And
she
only
was at the
two
front.
other women could respond to her, Lisa Lohman and Fosnes. And there was the attack by Lohman on the descent, and then Fosnes went for it.
Fosnes went through the middle, saw an opening, pushed the pace. Lohman responded. It's down to 2 descending in the stadium. Fosnes deciding to take it out. Lohman trying to make a charge at the finish, but Fosnes, U23 world champion here at Whistler Olympic Park. So don't
So here we go. We'll be ready to proceed to the awards ceremony at 11:35. Join us to the podium for the awards ceremonies for the U23 Women Mass Start Classic Style. Podium at 11:35. Donc 11h35, on sera prêt à procéder à nos cérémonies protocolaires. On vous invite à venir nous rejoindre au podium pour cérémonie protocolaire des championnats du monde junior U23 FIS de ski nordique.
I'm here with Kirsten, U23 winner. How does it feel to be a world champion?
It's unbelievable. I'm really, really happy, and I really didn't expect it. So it's just a dream coming true.
Take me through the race. I know it looked like a real grind out there and really like battling for positions. Did you expect a sprint finish?
I really hoped at the sprint finish, but I knew many of the Norwegian girls wanted like speed from the beginning, and also some of the other girls. So I really didn't believe it would be, but I'm really happy it was. And it was such a fight at every single hill.
Yeah, were there some points in the race where you're like, oh, I don't know if I can keep up with this pace anymore, or do you feel strong the whole way?
No, 100%. I felt like every round I was like, oh no, I can't do it anymore. And then I found some superpower from inside, so I'm really happy with that.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Superpowers there
Yeah.
for Fosnes.
Like, yeah, she wanted it to come to that sprint finish. And, you know, probably as she's prepping yesterday, this morning, she knew she was confident in her sprinting ability from the sprint race earlier and wanted to be a sprint. But you could just tell from that interview how much Bergana pushed that pace that Fosnes wasn't sure every lap if she could hang on, and dug deep and used those superpowers.
Yeah, like totally unexpected, but yeah, she somehow found a way to hold on with Bergana.
And that just goes to show you what sort of pace Bergana was setting out there for 19 kilometers.
Okay, so we're going to go down to Tom just to talk to another one of our podium finishers.
I'm here with Lohman, a U23 second place. How does it feel? Take me through the race a bit today.
It feels really great. We had to push from the beginning, but the two Norwegians were really strong and I had to follow them. And it was a good tactic, I think. And yes, it was a good race for me.
I noticed that Kirsten threw down a huge sprint right down, like you threw one down and then she came back. Were you expecting that?
I don't understand you.
On the last hill, you threw down a big sprint and you like made a big lead, but then Kirsten came back with another sprint. Were you expecting that?
Yeah, I was expecting that, but because Christine is a really good sprinter, and I'm not the best, I would say. Yes, I was expecting that.
Well, congratulations on your race today.
Okay, so that was Lisa Lohman of Germany in that silver medal position. She sat second the whole race.
Again, she said just how hard those Norwegian women were pushing the pace, and she did exactly what she needed to do. Just sit in behind there. If I can hang on, I know I can push for it. And we saw her attack on the descent. She also knew she didn't want to sprint against Fosnes in that final round, and that's why she made that attack on the descent. But Fosnes responded.
Yeah, what a great battle that finish was, because Fosnes led through the whole stadium, I was wondering, like, is Lisa Lohman just going to have that burst? And she almost did. Like, it almost like you could see that she was coming up even. Okay, so let's get another interview down by the corral, and we're going to go down to Tom Stephen.
Hey guys, I'm here with Margaret, third place in U23. How does it feel? You look like you really pushed the pace from the start. Was that your goal for the whole race?
Yeah, I thought I just had to try to go fast from the start, and it worked out pretty well. The two other girls were too strong in the finish.
Did you think it was going to come down to a sprint, or were you hoping just to gap them in the first 15K?
I was hoping to get a gap, and we did manage to get a gap, the three of us, so it was fun. It was a medal in the end.
Were you just so tired you just couldn't keep up with the sprint at the end because you put so much work in for the first bit of the race?
Yeah, I was tired at the end, so yeah, I couldn't get the two other girls.
Well, congratulations on your race today.
Okay, thanks, Tom. So we're just going to take a break, and then we're going to have the award ceremony for our very exciting women's U23 Classic race coming up shortly.
Yeah, mostly. My favorite girl was. Oh, she's just so cute. Really cute. And her English is really good. what we feed them. Plus, they have the timing results on every at intervals like coming up, so they know if something's passed. But a good chunk, I'd say 2K of the course they're going to cover.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So what do you do then for when they're out there?
We go to either live or pre-produced interviews in here.
All right. Okay.
I know off the top of the race, once they went to that on the first lap, they went to that spot or that zone. They replayed the start just to kind of kill some time. Oh, a drone. Just a drone, dude. It would work awesome. They just done in the budget for it, right?
Is that you guys over there? It's like a tiny camera on the court.
Yeah, we have three, I think 3 on the court.
Yeah, you do a lot of these guys. stuff today is fun on the shirt, things like that, I'm sure. It is. It felt good, like. Because you're like, oh, that's not like that one. Working it off and
Okay, everyone, welcome back. What an incredible race that was, Tim.
What an action-packed 20-kilometer race, Steve.
And here is the award ceremony.
Good afternoon and welcome to Whistler Olympic Park and the FIS Nordic Junior U23 World Ski Championships for the award ceremony of the cross-country U23 Mass Start Classic 20K Women.
Bonjour et bienvenue au Parc olympique de Whistler pour les championnats du monde junior U23 FIS de ski nordique pour la cérémonie des vainqueurs du ski de fond U23, départ de masse 20 km chez les femmes.
The medals will be presented by
Les médailles seront remises par
Niklas Carlson, Deputy Secretary General, FIS. Accompanied by
accompagné par
Norman Lobe, Chair, Black Tusk Nordic Events Society. In sixth place, representing Germany,
en 6e place, représentant l'Allemagne,
Helen Hoffmann. In fifth place, representing Switzerland,
en 5e place, représentant la Suisse,
Nadia Kelin. In fourth place, representing Switzerland,
en 4e place, représentant la Suisse,
Anja Weber. The bronze medalist representing Norway,
la médaille de bronze représentant la Norvège,
Margrit Bergan. The silver medalist representing Germany,
la médaille d'argent représentant l'Allemagne,
Lisa Lohmann. The FIS gold medalist and 2023 FIS U23 world champion for cross country, representing Norway,
votre médaillée d'or et championne du monde 2023, représentant la Norvège,
Kristin Oskulen Fosnes. The gifts will be presented by
les cadeaux seront présentés par
Bram Rutherford, Coast Outdoors. And now, in honor of the world champion, let's hear the national anthem of Norway.
En l'honneur de notre championne du monde, l'île de la Norvège.
One more time, your applause for our medalists and winners.
De nouveau, vos applaudissements pour nos gagnantes.
Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes our award ceremonies for our U23 women's 20K class mass start. And we will be asking you to join us and stay with us for this afternoon's race as the U23 men will be going for their 20K mass start in the classic technique at 12:35.
Okay, so Kristen Fosny's taking the gold medal, the silver Lisa Lohman, the bronze to Margreta Brigana, but also in there, 5th place, was one of the Kalin sisters matching what her sister took in the junior women's race.
Yeah, that's right, Steve. 2 5th places for the Kalin sisters. So awesome, but I'm still processing those 3 women up top on the podium, how that race unfolded. 20 kilometers, 19K, Brigana was leading, pushing that pace, knew she did not want it to come down to a sprint finish.
But it did.
It did,
and
Steve, it did.
And Lohman had the energy for the finish. So we're going to go through some highlights here of that unbelievably exciting race. The start, Tim.
Again, Brigana, bib number 1, right off the front of the pack, and she led 19 kilometers of that race.
Yeah, you see her right at the front, always at the front, always pushing the pace. That was her mission for 19 kilometers. Brigana right at the front. Brigana pushing the pace.
And here we see Lohman just skiing so relaxed. She knew she had to sit in behind, and that was the attack by Lisa Lohman.
But Brigana going back to the front, and then here, this was interesting. Lohman making a move, but not able to overtake Fosny's, and the final sprint, the final 100 meters, Lohman making a charge, but Fosny's pulling away and taking a World U23 championship. Totally unexpected.
And as Fosna said in her interview, she found some superhero powers out there to sprint that hard after 19 kilometers.
She needed that.
Relentless pace pushing.
She needed that to keep up with Brigana, and she said there was so many times where she thought, I can't do this, I can't do this, but she did it. And there is your podium. Very similar kind of race to the 2010 Olympics 30K Classic, and there is your top 10, Fosnes, Lohman, Brigana, Bieber, Kalin, Hoffman, Murk, Palmer Ledger of the US, DeCenta of Italy, and Foyen of Norway. And there was a big pack there for quite a while. Brigana just trying to shake them, and then finally on that final lap, got a big enough gap. And those top 3 held on to sprint for the medals.
Yeah, and some great racing from our women here from Canada. Lillian Gagnon, 12th place, Jasmine Lyons, 13th. It was so great to see them skiing together, battling it out. And then Amelia Wells, BC resident, and Anna Perron rounding out the Canadian team.
Yeah, solid results by the Canadians. Right up there, a couple top 15s. Also USA, Novi McCabe up there, Sydney Palmer-Ledger up there, Annabelle Needham in 33rd for the U.S.
Steve, Sophie Laukley there did not finish. You know, she's definitely one of my favorites for that skate race, so hopefully nothing major happened to her and that she can come back for that 10-kilometer skate.
Yeah, so we've got the U23 men coming up, and so that's going to be in about 35, 40 minutes time. We'll have the U23 men, and they're going to race 20K, and I think we're going to see some more fireworks there.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a little more tactics coming into play there.
Those are the medals that these skiers are battling for. Fosnes took a silver 2 days ago in the sprint. What a battle it was. Bergana, it was all Bergana for 19 kilometers. Then it was down to 3. The final kilometer, finally Lohmann moves to the front, but Fosnes moving up the inside. Then heading towards the final climb, then down into the stadium. It was still Lohmann and Fosnes. Fosnes leading throughout the stadium. Lohmann making a charge. But at the end, it was fantastic Fosnes using her superhero powers, flying to the finish and taking a U23 World Championship. Top step on the podium. We'll see you soon for the U23 men.